Many things were gained as a result of these years of struggle. In 1964, the Civil Rights Bill came into being after the Birmingham movement, which did a great deal to subpoena the conscience of a large segment of the nation to appear before the judgment seat of morality on the whole question of civil rights. After the Selma movement in 1965, we were able to get a voting rights bill. Now, all of these things represented strides, but we must see that the struggle today is much more difficult. It's more difficult today because we are struggling now for genuine equality. And it's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee a livable income and a good, solid job. It's much easier to guarantee the right to vote than it is to guarantee the right to live in sanitary, decent housing conditions. It is much easier to integrate a public park than it is to make genuine, quality, integrated education a reality. And so today we are struggling for something which says we demand genuine equality.
Yo, 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 welcome to the 1804 show, chapter 2. I'm your host, Dollar Wheel, and this is another episode of 1804 History. First off, hit that like button, share, subscribe to the channel, the 1804 show, chapter 2. Now let's get it. So tonight, I want to talk about Mr. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and just huge misconceptions that we had growing up, learning about him in the public school system. And I just try to tell people that you got to be careful about who's teaching your children, and also the ones who taught you as well, because it's a particular narrative, because whoever controls the media controls the narrative. And just his birthday coming up on the 15th of next month, so I wanted to just, break down this little series about his life and just what he was going through as a young man, because I think everyone forget that he died at 39 years old, so he didn't even make it to 40. And nowadays 40 is simple, you know what I'm saying? But back in them days, 40 actually meant something. And it just was very tragic, just how people can just downplay his greatness and downplay his sacrifice like he was some type of punk or he was some type of chump because he believed in nonviolence. But people took that nonviolence out of context. I'm pretty sure that he could fight and this and that, but he had to do that in order for America to get the national attention of racism and segregation and these protests and stuff. There was no social media back then, and we highly forget that when we have easier access to what's going on in the nation nowadays. So, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about just like the last 2 years of his life, just the awakening that he was experiencing, because everyone just quickly talks about the I Have a Dream and Nobel Peace Prize, but he was really on some revolutionary stuff and just really was going to change the game once he started to see that he contributed to the burning house. And all of it wasn't his fault. It was many other of his counterparts. It was Congress, it was Washington, it was a whole lot of people or a lot of entities that was responsible for our current state today in America. Because they didn't want us to stay together or stay unified and stay segregated, because they knew that our money that we was donating into our community, into our businesses, the segregationists wanted the money too, because they know about our spending power and our buying power. You know, they know that when it comes to us or whatever, we spend the most. And they wanted a piece of the pie. And he realized that after meeting Elijah Muhammad back in 1966, when he lived in Chicago, that he needed to do his own thing. Because no matter how smart you are, like if you're not conscious or if you're not aware of what's in front of you or what's going on around you, then you're going to be lost. You pretty much sleep. You know what I'm saying? No matter how educated you are, you need to be woke. You need to be awake, or just fully aware of who you truly are and see the outcomes of your decisions and your choices you make. And because every action is a reaction, you know what I'm saying? So he just started to really see, and then he dropped some gems and he dropped some clues about who we truly were in America, and that we've been here thousands and thousands of years, way before the so-called out of Africa theory, before the Middle Passage. He was dropping these gems, because he even said in the I Have a Dream speech that the Negro is in exile in his own land. And people didn't caught on to it. And then his other America speech, when he was just talking about how before the Declaration of Independence, we was here. Before Washington sailed Pelotomic, we was here. So he was telling us that we were the Aborigines of this land, the Native Americans of this land, and everybody bypassed it. It totally went against what he stood for. And what I tell people, when I want people to understand, is that back in 1963, he was considered the most dangerous Negro in America. He was considered the #1 threat on the FBI wanted list, because he had that influence. And he knew that he played a part in manipulating Black America. And he didn't realize that he was a pawn, that he was a puppet. But regardless of what he did, he was willing to fix it. He was willing to just say, hey, it's not too late to undone what I had a part in. So let me start this poor people's campaign. Let me start doing independent speeches and everything, because Lyndon Johnson and the White House and all that completely bailed out on him, completely like washed their hands with him after he made his speeches and shared his thoughts on the Vietnam War. So he was like, look, I'm gonna start my own thing. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people didn't know, like, he had a hard time paying his bills the last year of his life. Because when you go against the grain, when you not willing to be controlled, like, they get rid of you, they cut you off. And then they decide, okay, well, we can't just kill him, but let's kill him in a court of public opinion. You know, same old tactics that's being used today. You know what I'm saying? Because that public opinion court ain't no joke. That public opinion court is going to destroy you mentally and emotionally. And before they get you physically, and then they kill you. But they got to have the public turn on you first, in which the public did turn on him. Even the people that he went to college with, from like his frat brothers, all turned on him. So he just wanted to make things right and do his thing independently, because he really saw the future. And he was like a prophet when he was just talking about that all these reoccurrent riots is going to be continued, because the stuff's still going to be happening. The injustices like police brutality, bad housing, the poor economics is going to still create chaos in the streets and stuff like that, and which has still been going on. And I tell everybody, you think you're free, but you're not free. We're not free until we get ourselves together. We get rid of the people that's bringing all the problems and all the drugs and all the guns and killings. That's when we're going to be free. When we actually take ourselves into accountability and just really realize that we just sit back and allow these people and allow these troublemakers to put our communities in shambles. And we just, minding our own business and try to live our life. But we contribute to it too, because we allow it to happen. And I just want people to understand something. Like, you got to be careful about what our children and what your kids are being taught. And your job as a parent and your responsibility as a parent is to ask them what they're learning in school, so you can tell them and you can proofread, or you can be the voice of reason and be like, look, I know you learning this, but let me teach you what I know and stuff like that. Because it's still adults still thinking that Dr. King was a sellout. But how can a sellout go through having their houses bombed and being shot at, being beaten, being abused, and being shot dead? And not only shot dead, but being set up by your friends and the people you trusted. And Memphis played a huge part in the civil rights movement. It was the Battle of Armageddon. And a lot of people don't sit back and think about it. That's why it's so dangerous now, because of the energy, because of the spirits that's down there. Because there was massacres in Memphis and killings and a whole lot of stuff. And then this happened. And that just let you know that it was his friends that set him up, because all the stuff that he was going through, it should have been more security. You know what I'm saying? You have the most famous person in that particular time and era had to go through death threats and go through public humiliation. And it's like when our leaders and stuff like that, they don't just kill you once, but they kill you again by shitting on your legacy and bringing up your dirt, bringing up your secrets, bringing up shit that you did behind closed doors to try to discredit everything you worked for. But yet, your Eisenhowers and your Kennedys, and like, they discuss their misfortunes and their bad deeds, but they don't try to tarnish their legacy. They still hold them up to a particular plateau or just a great prestige. And when it comes to our leaders, we gotta have a bad theme to them. Like, this man was young. This man was highly educated. You know what I'm saying? To graduate from high school at the age of 15 years old. And they say that he plagiarized his doctorate speech or something like that, or a particular presentation to make him a doctor. But come on, man. It's just, when it comes to us, like, they don't want us to look at our black men with such honor. They always want to try to discredit him or try to beat him down. And he was a father of, 4 kids, I believe. I think 3 or 4. And then you have this chick trying to burn his house down recently. Like, what kind of... How trifling can you be to burn down a man who fought for your rights, who fought so you can have some type of equality? But you trying to burn his house down, like... And I don't hear really no one talking about that. But it really pisses me off when people talk about Dr. King and try to shit on him, but they couldn't imagine. They couldn't even do half the shit that he did. Like, he was under amount of stress, paranoia all the time, but yet he still was able to smile and live his life and try to be not only a son, but to be a husband and a father. Like, that's a lot of pressure. And he wasn't just a particular man. He was a man who sacrificed his life for us and to be mainly our own people. You know what I'm saying? It's bad enough when, like, I cringe when I hear a black man call him Martin Luther King. I cringe. And I want to beat his ass. You know what I'm saying? Because how dare you? Like, you a nobody. And then they want to just, bring up his cheating and his marital affairs and stuff like that. Not saying that it was right, but hey, I wasn't there. So, and they talk about the tapes and how it's going to be released in 2027. And I don't care about that, because can nobody take away the love and respect that I have for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I realized that he's human. And because of that, it made me respect him more, because he's human. Even though he's been more immortalized, but I look at things differently. Like, I respect the people who has been immortalized for their imperfections to come out. It makes me respect them more. But like, okay, they're human. Okay, they did that, but they still was able to change the world. Because in this world, you're going to be a participant in the world, regardless of how good or how righteous you are. We are tainted in our own ways. We are sinners, and we all contribute to bad energy. But I'm just grateful to have existed, to know how this great man thought about not just the generation before then, but the generation that came after, and just really wanted us to share the particular opportunities to be able to make a full-time pay working at a full-time job and get better housing and get better opportunities. So I feel like the ones who get the better opportunities and don't care about the community and don't try to give back to the community, those the real sellouts to me. So I respect and will always love Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. because he could have gave up. He could have just said, you know what? This not my problem. I got to raise my family. I got to do what's best for me and mine and this and that. But he stayed committed. He stayed consistent. And he thought about, this is not about me anymore. A lot of people depend on me. So that's how I feel. And that's what separates a leader. And not even the people that was with him all didn't agree with him. A whole lot of people wanted to fight back and rebel. And don't think it's over. It just postponed it, but it's not over. And what we got to stop doing is taking a check and forgiving everybody. We got to stop that. That's the slave mentality. Because even Christians fought back. People in the Bible, the walls of Jericho, that was a bloody war to get the city of Jericho. They didn't just pray to forgive their enemies and this and that, but they slaughtered the enemy, beheaded people and all that stuff. So y'all really need to start going back and reading your word and reading your Bible and really realize that they fought back too. That ain't just was docile and be like, hey, I forgive you and this and that. No, they took their freedom too. So we got to take our freedom, not in bloodshed, but we have to take our freedom by taking our minds back and thinking for ourselves and not criticizing people who think for themselves and hating on one another and try to be messy and problematic amongst ourselves. Like, we got to love each other because all we have is each other. And we are best friend and also our worst enemy at times. So I'm going to end this episode on a good note. I know I talk on shit, but hey, somebody got to do it. But I just want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight and have a safe, blessed Merry Christmas. And like, comment, subscribe to the channel, the 1804 Show, Chapter 2. And I'm out. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.